How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. I'm really good. It's good to be talking to you, John.
It's good to be talking to you too. How do you pronounce your name? Is Conscian?
That's the one. Got it. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
Conscian Morgan. Okay. Um, so Conscian, thank you very much for giving us time like that we can talk about Nithu. My first initial question, and as well, welcome to the nerdy basement, is how does it feel to be part of Bite Size Halloween?
amazing. That's amazing. It's an excellent opportunity. It's just I can't speak more highly of the guys at 20th Digital, and from the moment they sort of reached out to me to now the end, the hand holding, the guidance, the support framework has been incredible. So I can't speak more highly of them.
That's amazing. So Conscian, I just gotta say that when I finished watching Nithu, I was I have no words on how I felt to the end because it felt new and it felt that there's more to this than what we saw. And I
Yes.
think that the message that is in it in the story is powerful. Um
Excellent.
me
Excellent.
being me being from Puerto Rico, that we do go by generation to generation, seeing
Mm,
how it turns out, it's I gotta say I was speechless.
mm.
What inspired you to bring us this short film?
Cool. So Enzu, um,
Enzu, my bad.
yeah, no problem. It's even to this day I still question, am I getting it right? But it's kind of but yeah. So it started off with I wanted to do a story around a séance. That was kind of like the initial seed of the idea. Wanted to do an interesting horror short around the séance. Um, um, and from then, with my writer Will, we started considering the other assets, the sort of other facets to that story. So you've got there, then we've got the chalk, which is used in southern parts of Nigeria, and sort of members of society that are kind of higher status can use the chalk to speak to the dead. That's the idea. And since I'm half Nigerian, and it just made sense to sort of lean into that. So we had the kind of Enzu chalk piece, we had the seance side, and I think the other sort of parts of that was, okay, so what theme or what message are we trying to sort of get across here? And for me, having read a few articles around slave reparation and that kind of stuff, and the idea, and there's some quite strong arguments on either side on that kind of topic, I thought that was quite an interesting thing to maybe potentially draw on. And I think it's quite clear the concept, I hope,
Mhm.
the idea of the past, and whether we allow the past to sort of dictate how we sort of maneuver and perform and act in the present and the future.
Okay. So how was it working with Will? Because I know that he's the co-writer of the story. So how was it the back and forth between you two to just, complete the story?
We have, yeah, so we have kind of, so our process, it's weird, isn't it? You have to, like, what different writers and how they work, and they give you my secrets now. But so we kind of, how it will start off is I will say, look, Will, this is what I'm thinking. And then we'll spend like an hour kind of just chewing the fat and kind of stress testing it. And, is this kind of what we're thinking? And we'll spend a couple of hours doing that. Then we'll go away, and now it's kind of fermenting our heads and brains. And then once that's done, what will happen then is we'll kind of produce an Excel sheet, do I say, and we'll kind of like outline kind of, what's the theme, what are the characters, the kind of basic, I'm not going to teach you, the
Okay.
basic kind of writing things, and like what are the characters, where they're going, all that kind of stuff. And we'll have that as a framework. And once we've done that, then I'll probably produce a very high level, rough skeleton outline on what's happening, each scene, some descriptions. I throw over to Will, he'll then flesh it out, throws it over to me, I then flesh it out, and it just goes backwards and forwards to a point where we're good. And that's kind of our process, really.
Okay, that's awesome. I understand that. Writing I think that writing a book or writing a full on script or a small script for a short film has to be a long process. Especially when you want to bring a specific message to the audience, right? So this short film goes around almost 9 minutes. It's the
Yeah,
short. So a lot of things happen in those 9 minutes. Some of them are simple, some of them are empowering
yeah,
due to the message. So,
yes.
what would you say that would be your favorite scene of
Mm,
these 9 minutes?
Oh, that's a hard one. Like, do I like my brother or my sister? I think so. From a genre perspective, obviously, I think that the scariest part is obviously the seance scene. I think, and the way
Hmm.
that's executed, I think that's quite cool. So I do like that. But I suppose that's from a filmmaker. But from an audience, I think an audience perspective, I think it's probably more satisfying. The end scene, I find that probably more satisfying because that's the kind of the bounce, the conflict between obviously some at the beginning as well, and that's quite cool. But I think I'd probably say my favorite scene is at the end when Hamish and Dr. Oba are having a little kind of 2-1-2-1-2. For me, that's kind of because that's probably where the conflict's the highest. There's some dramatic irony in there, that kind of thing.
Okay, so I wanted to ask. So you did mention that Enzu is like Nigerian seance. So if we would get to see this as a full length film, would that mean that there would be more details? Because I did notice that there's when you go to Dr. Oba's house, there's a lot of pictures of ancestors and tribe men and women. And so would that mean that probably in a full length film we would see more in depth of like what does Enzu mean and what it is for the Nigerian people or tribes?
Yeah, I think so. I think the law of the chalk, the rules around that. I think there's only so much we could do in 8 minutes, and I didn't want to do too much exposition because it just becomes a bit too much on the nose. So yeah, absolutely right. I think it would make sense to sort of give the audience that, and I think they would be expecting it to understand, the kind of bit more of a background to the chalk, what it means. Is it good? Is it bad? That kind of thing.
No, yeah, because it just it caught my eye because I think that one of the things that I can notice in the film is that even though you have 9 minutes, you made sure that me as the audience can notice that there is more to what they're doing. In terms of the seance, there's more into what family and tribes and generations are there. So my my
I can
next
tell. I could tell you
uh
before you go. In terms of the writing, it didn't. We started off at quite. We had to streamline it down. So
oh wow.
so there's stuff in there that you're not aware of.
Okay,
This is kind
okay.
of, but I mean that's just the nature of short films and being quite clever about what you reveal to the audience and not. But yeah, absolutely. There's a lot more background to it in terms of just how and why the seance works. What are these kind of spirits and entities? How are they influencing on the protagonist? Those kind of things.
Yeah, that again, you just got me. I really did loved it. So that's why I'm asking so many like in detail
Yeah,
questions.
yeah,
So I wanna like pick your brain for a while, for a moment. There's one
sure.
scene that it's my favorite scene.
Mhm.
There's the scene where both Dr. Oba and Hamish collide.
The first opening,
Where
the opening, yeah,
yes, so when Dr. Oba is sitting with him alone, well, quotation alone, they do have this clash in between. Like Dr. Oba knows more than what Hamish sees or what meets the eye.
yes, yes,
And they go to this very deep conversation about family and generations. Amish
yes,
goes and attacks him, saying that just because of my color of my skin, it does not mean that what my ancestors or my past generations did, it hurts
yes,
you. So
Yes.
can you give us more details about that scene? Because I think that there's more to that scene than just that conflict.
I think, yeah. So I think there's in two parts. There's Hamish has ultimately gone there to ask for Raina's hand in marriage, right? So, he's going in there with an objective to sort of, can I marry your daughter? And I think, and that's obviously his goal, right? And it carries through. And I think, so the reason why I'm mentioning this is because if there's kind of, that in itself is quite a loaded thing, because obviously he's a white guy coming into the Black family, and in some ways there's the idea of handing someone over to the other person, handing a daughter over to Hamish, and there's the idea of debt, right? There's still a debt that needs to be owed. And so you could argue that if you wanted to lean into it more, obviously within time, there's space around the idea that that Hamish first needs to pay a debt before he can, or understand the debt is, he first needs to pay, he needs to understand the debt and pay that debt before he can come into the family. So that's kind of like the story. But thematically, you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, it really does come down to Dr. Oba challenging Hamish on his thinking that that you don't have to worry about the past. The past doesn't have any influence on your present or the future. And I think it's those two kind of storylines that are kind of delicately balancing on each other in that scene. If I may ask you, John, as well, a question: what did you take from it? Like, because I know you talked about the conflict. What were the areas that you thought?
So the reason why I asked the question is because Dr. Oba goes ahead, and when Hamish sees once again the mirror, he sees that they're there, but he's not like actually there with them. So then Dr. Oba goes ahead and says, you have to face what your past generations did. So that's why it's very intriguing, because you have Hamish, a character that probably in his time he didn't do no wrong, but he does not know what his father from the father of the father did in previous generations. So that's why I was so intrigued to see the I don't know if I would call it a creature or
I see where your question's leading to now. So
yeah.
I suppose you was trying to understand his karma.
Yes.
Right. Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, that's something, I mean, I suppose that was left for the audience to fill in. Like I didn't want to because I think the moment you go there, especially in that short film, then I think what you're doing is you're spoon feeding one idea. So you've got two ideas. You don't worry about your past, worry about your past, right? And I think the moment we kind of showed Hamish's karma, like very clearly, this is what it is. I think in some way it undermines the point of the story, which is to make people think about their past. So, it's like almost if you hold up an ink blot test, a cloud, and you see whatever you want to see, right? If that kind of makes sense. And I'm talking.
No, yeah. It completely makes sense.
It's the moment if we got very descriptive about his karma, I think it undermines the experience for that short film.
Yeah, because at first I was like, when I finished the short film, I went ahead and rewatched it once again. And I'm like, okay, so I have these two types of feelings. You can take in a message of like how Dr. Oba is trying to like be a father and just make sure that whoever his daughter's with is in good hands. And then you have the other aspect that will be like the past. You have to worry about what happened to your what your ancestors and your father from your father did.
Yeah, you've got it. You've got it. One and two. That you've got it. You've nailed it. And it's kind of, and it's so intrinsically interlinked in that short film. And it's just being quite clever about what you show and what you don't show.
Exactly. So yeah, I gotta say, because it was so intriguing and so interesting on how you work things out to make the film be so at the start like just somebody trying to to ask a father for their daughter's hand, and then going to more deep connection with, okay, this is who your family is on the past, even though you did not know. So you have to worry about that, like that you can move forward. And
Absolutely.
again,
And it was kind of like the
mind
theme,
blowing.
yeah, kind of hinting towards at the beginning, and then ultimately you kind of come back again, free circle, 360 circle, whatever you want to call it, to the theme. But I'm glad you got it and enjoyed it. It's awesome.
Oh yeah. So Conscian, I have to say, you have NZU in Bite Size Halloween. I did check your credits to see if I can find anything else, to see if you're working on something, but obviously you don't find everything in the normal areas that one would search. But do you have any other upcoming projects that you can, give us a little details?
So I think so. Will and I are now, so we're having some downtime for about a month, just because it's been quite intense working on this wonderful experience. But obviously, you can imagine trying to get it done in time for Huluween and all that kind of stuff. So the idea now is just some downtime for a month, kind of, just take stock of what's gone on, and then start thinking about kind of the ideas. So we are texting each other now and sharing kind of little ideas about where we think we want to be going, and then probably around January, we're going to jump into a new script and a new idea.
Okay, that's amazing. Like, again, like I said, I'm super intrigued of what's coming. I do hope that you get a chance to just bring more to NZU, because again, it's mind blowing. It's
I'm glad.
I
I'm really
imagine it.
glad you enjoyed it.
I imagine it a full length film should be
Yeah.
such an amazing treat for everybody. So
I hope so. Now you're making me feel. Thank you.
so Conscian, I gotta say thank you very much for your time. I hope that anything that you're working with will, just make it happen. I gotta say your stuff is amazing. So
Cool. Thank you very
I
much.
can't wait for what's next. So thank you very much once again. I hope that we will see you next time here, in the Nerdy Basic, talking about another film. And
That'd be awesome.
for everybody that's watching us, we will see you guys in the next one.
Thank you, Chilla. Cheers.